Johnny was like, this girl was there who was in love with Jonathan. Johnny was like, Dad, you are my baby. And he went through, well, when you got sick, I said, oh, Daddy, just stop, please. He's my baby. I'm at the right hand of God. He's going to be my baby. I said, okay. I said, I said, Home Spice is just going to have to adjust to the fact that you, your daddy's baby Johnny. Oh, be quiet, be quiet. Oh, girl. Praise the Lord. And I'm grateful that I've known you that long. Praise the Lord. That long. Oh, what'd you say? Oh, Johnny. Because his wife calls him Jonathan. And everybody, I think it was David Wallace who she introduced his son to David Wallace as Jonathan Jr. She said, oh, Jonathan Luther. She said, oh, no, it's Jonathan Theodore. She said, oh, then he's not Jonathan Jr. And she looked at him. She said, he said, I helped to name him. Oh, yeah. He said Dr. King was his godfather. So we just decided that Luther, all of us, because he was my father's best friend. We were in seminary. It was biblical. It was all of that. And boy, I just saw the expression on her face, like, oh no. I was like, honey, there's some people who've known us since the beginning. Okay. Oh boy. Well, God bless us and God help us all. Mm, 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 mm.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And meet my family. Hey, Andre, my God brother, over there on YouTube, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and Robert Williams, and Linear Bob, and Max down out there in DC. Oh, yeah, everybody, like and share the show, like and share the show. Yes, of course, we're going to be talking about the Middle East today. Got to do it. Goodness gracious, got to do it because it's a game changer. Our president is over there. We're praying for his health and safety. Secretary Blinken is in the region, praying for them to travel safely. And the president has walked into the most challenging of times. There was an explosion, a brutal explosion at a hospital in Gaza. They're very, 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 very few, and it's a religious run hospital. And it wasn't just an explosion, there was a bombing. And the Israeli Defense Forces have denied responsibility for it. But all indications are, if you saw the press conference, even the mainstream media looked at them skeptically because they've not told the truth before. In some other instances, these things happen, everybody. But what we do know is that at least 500 people have been killed, their body parts strewn everywhere, and they're expecting the number to go up to 1,000, if not past 1,000. So the summit that President Biden was going to have in Jordan with the president of Egypt, with the king of Jordan, the head of the Palestinian Authority, that is now off the table. That was pushed off the table when he was in the air on his way to Israel, which is where he is right now. It is the most difficult of situations. The most difficult of situations. For his portion, he has said, you know what? It looks like the other team did it. Israel is saying that the Islamic jihadists did it. And the whole Muslim world and many other military experts are saying, no, this was not just some explosion, some rocket explosion gone bad. This is actually an airstrike because rockets don't have the power to kill hundreds of people in one fell swoop. This particular explosion killed hundreds of people, if not 1,000 people, in one fell swoop. And only one country in the region has machinery that powerful, have munitions that powerful. So let's talk about it. Indeed, they have called for a ceasefire. It turns out Congressman Jonathan Jackson, my brother's going to be on CNN, either at 6:30 our time or at 7:30 our time, talking about the bill that he's one of the sponsors of, the ceasefire. I didn't even know. Oh, well, silly me. This that progressives have been assailed for by the White House. They called it repugnant, disgraceful. They're calling for a ceasefire, and now other Arab nations are calling for that as well. The Abraham Accords that President Trump put together, normalizing relationships with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and on and on and on. Now that's off the table. Off the table. So let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show, everybody. Oh, there's so many elements here because now we've got two huge military ships over there. There is a real possibility that America can have boots on the ground. It's a real possibility. This is quite serious, everybody, quite serious. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are today. I told you, I have said that Israeli security and Palestinian justice are married to each other. You're not going to have one without the other. So why not have a ceasefire? Why not stop the killing? Why not? And then let's negotiate, not quiet, but a peace. Let's get to these headlines. There was a deadly explosion, as I just said, at a hospital in Gaza City. Hundreds of people were killed at the blast. The numbers, well, we just don't know. At least 500 people have been killed. Al Jazeera says up to 1,000. Palestinian officials said an Israeli airstrike hit the hospital. That's key, everybody. Israeli officials blamed a failed rocket launch. That's important, everybody, from the Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad. President Biden has landed safely in Israel, and he had a press conference and a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll see what comes of that. The House failed to elect a new speaker yesterday. Representative Jim Jordan, a Donald Trump ally with a very thin resume, by the way, I must say. His legislative record is quite thin. He did not win enough Republican support to become speaker in the first round of voting. Jordan and his allies said they would hold another vote today. The House hasn't had a speaker for 2 weeks, and the interim speaker has fewer powers. Will they give the interim speaker more powers? Will they go back to McCarthy? We don't know. Ukraine used long-range U.S.-provided missiles for the first time. They fired a version of these missiles to strike Russian military aircraft and ammo depots in Ukraine, one of its military officials said. The U.S. halted collection on some past due COVID loans, around $62 billion in pandemic loans to small businesses. The agency that manages the program decided against using aggressive actions to pursue borrowers. The Small Business Administration thinks recovering the money could cost more than writing it off. But the agency's watchdogs and the decision said the decision could break the law. Alec Baldwin may face new charges in the Rust movie set shooting. Wow. New information in the 2021 killing of the renowned photographer Helena Hutchins may show Baldwin had criminal culpability in her death. We will see. And the IRS announced a new way to file your return, Direct File. It's a tax preparation software program like TurboTax that's totally free. The agency hopes it will make it easier to fill out your tax forms. But guess what? The House always wins, everybody. What you gonna do about that? In Chicago, we're gonna have a high of 64 degrees, partly cloudy. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 59 degrees. It will be partly cloudy there too. In Major League Baseball, the Phillies are leading their series 2-0. Boy, they shut out the Diamondbacks 10-0 yesterday. It's the League Championship Series, everybody. The Astros will be playing the Rangers today. Texas leads that series 2-0. The NFL had the night off, and at 7 p.m., the Aces will be facing off against the Liberty in the World Championship of the WNBA. I love it. I love it. I love it. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how you doing today?
I am doing well. What about you?
I am doing well. Just trying to figure a lot of things out because there's a lot going on in the world, and it is a whole lot to comprehend,
Indeed.
So you talk to me because I really need some good news today.
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. How many of you know that it is easy to tell someone else what to do, but when it is time to do it yourself, that's another story? Well, I'm going to share with you a snippet of my life, something that happened to me. My daughter, little Vicky, and I were going out of the country a couple of years ago on separate trips. The pandemic threw us off balance because our passports had expired the year prior, and we didn't think about renewing them. A few months before the trip, we completed our applications and submitted them to the U.S. Post Office. My daughter completed hers a week or so before me. Neither of us expedited because the clerk told us we didn't have to. We had enough time. As we got a few weeks out from my daughter's trip, the passport had not arrived. I calmly told her not to worry and that it would arrive on time. After all, she had already purchased her airline tickets and was scheduled to stay at the resort, so she had to have her passport. Another week passed and no passport. By now, she was worried and I was a little concerned, but I told her very calmly that everything would be all right. A week out, no passport, and she was about to panic. She scheduled an appointment the Tuesday before the trip to expedite, yet there was no guarantee she would get it. I continued to pray and assure her that it would come. The next day, she received a call saying her passport would be overnighted and it was received 2 days later. Hallelujah. The passport arrived and all was well. In our joy and an excitement about her passport and how she enjoyed her trip, we forgot about mine. I began checking my status online 1 week out from the trip, and it said pending. I was concerned. The next day, it said the same thing, and now I was worried. How could I have done this? I started to panic as I told my daughter not to. 5 days out from the trip, I called to schedule an appointment like little Vicky, only to find that there were none available in Chicago. I would have to fly to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Last minute airfare was more than it would cost to fly out of the country. So I had a talk with myself. To be honest, I had several talks with myself and calmed myself down. I said the same God that came through for little Vicky would come through for me. I received a call that very night saying that my passport would arrive overnight, just like it had happened for little Vicky, and it did. It's easy to tell someone else that everything is going to be all right. It's easy to tell someone else they can make it. It's easy to tell someone else that God will provide. But what about when you need all of that and some for yourself? B.B. King made a song, I like to live the love that I sing about.
In my song.
In my song. Before him, Mahalia Jackson recorded, I'm going to live the life I sing about in my song. In other words, if what you are talking about, singing about, preaching about is good enough for others, it ought to be good enough for you. It's good to encourage others, but sometimes you need to encourage yourself. You owe it to yourself. Believe the advice that you are giving. Encourage yourself. If you can do this, and I'm pretty sure that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Ooh-wee. Thank you for that. I had so many of those experiences
Mhm.
lately. But God is real. God is real,
Oh, yeah.
everybody. God is real. And if you're blocked from something, and maybe you're not supposed to be there. Have you thought about that, everybody? But what did you say? The
Mm.
same God that delivered for little Vicky will deliver for me in
Hmm.
the right time. And maybe
That's
so you
right.
could give this message to us and to so many others. Just peace be
Amen.
still. Pastor Vicki
Hmm.
Johnson, how can we worship with you on Sunday? Because we not only you have not one pulpit, but two.
Amen. You can worship with me on Sundays at 9 a.m. at Lebanon Lutheran Church, 13100 South Manistee in Hegewisch, and then at 11:30 a.m. for the Hour of Power at St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard here in Chicago. Both services are on Facebook.
Amen. Pastor Vicki Johnson, everybody. So proud of you and your ministry and so honored that you're with us on Wednesdays. Love it. Love you. Who love this? And we need this good news in these times more than ever. And of course, your little Johnny, also known as Congressman Jonathan Jackson, will be on CNN either in a few minutes. She's bursting all. She was like, I said, Congressman Jackson will be on. She said, little Johnny. I said, yes. Yeah, she's known him that long. So maybe since he was about 3 or 4. And
Hey.
yeah. We go way back. And so
Hmm.
everybody, please. Well, you don't have to tune away from me, but have your ear open on the radio. But I certainly am going to record because I cannot wait to see and hear what he has to say. Because indeed, he's one of the original sponsors of the ceasefire bill, as one of the original sponsors and signatories, calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East, which now people are beginning to call for because we now have a horrific situation on our hands because striking a hospital is a war crime. But what's happening in Gaza, shutting off
Mm.
water and because only 96% of the water is undrinkable there, water, electricity, all of that, that's a war crime. Collective punishment is a war crime. These are war crimes, and we need to call that out. It could happen to anyone at any time. And before you start painting with a broad brush, the Israelis, look, human beings are cruel to each other, Pastor Vicky.
Yes. Yes.
The Bible talks about countries. It doesn't even talk about, color is, look, racism is what it is, and I get it. But let me tell you, people are unkind to each other, period. End of story, full stop. And this is our moment to get that right. And if you care about your friends, you tell them when they're wrong.
That's right.
You don't just let them go. You tell them when they're wrong. You do that. And they're wrong in this instance. You don't treat people this way. You don't put people in the largest open air prison in the world. You don't do that. It's not right. It's not right. It wasn't right when it was done to them 70 years ago. It's not right when it's being done to people today. It's not right. It's not right when it's being done in this country. And it is being done in this country when you ghettoize people. Just stop it. I
Mhm.
want justice. I love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. You know what? I've got someone who we love so much, Dr. Shanina Knighton. As you know, we've been talking about stress and stress being a killer. And Dr. Knighton, there's a huge report, Dr. Knighton and Pastor Johnson, in the Washington Post on that. I mean, I downloaded like
Mm.
100+ pages yesterday. These, I download everything because I don't want that. I don't trust the cloud. I want to have, and plus I like reading and I like sitting down and read. I love the whole exercise of reading. And it is I mean, and now they're just documenting, Dr. Knighton, how stress kills, how it shortens your life. You were right when you were talking about that yesterday. Racism is shortening our lives. Unequal access to the right health care. It's just, it is taking us out. Dr. Knighton?
I agree. I agree, Santita. I think the thing is really not paying attention to the importance of, I would say, the time that we have, and just as I mentioned, what is in our control. So focusing on things that we can't control. And so you are right. There are these topics which are very important and they do need to be addressed. But we have to realize that everyone doing their part is a lot better than you thinking that you have to solve the problem by yourself. And what I find interesting is, and I know that we're all guilty of it, is burnout.
Yeah.
It's taking on too much when we know that there are limitations, meaning that if there's 24 hours in a day, when we decide that we're going to, let's say, pull an all-nighter to get something done, when we know that we're going to miss out on sleep because something major or tragic has happened in our life, because, or when we decide that, like, hey, this is going to be my fight or something that I'm going to focus on, is understanding, am I keeping a balance with being able to do that or not? And it comes down to, if you're not keeping that balance within yourself, saying, I know that I am stressed out about X, Y, and Z. So it's almost like balancing a checkbook is what I would describe it as. So if you know, for example, that you have made X amount of deposits, I mean, you've eaten your vegetables, you have exercise, you are, let's say, meditating, or you're praying, or you are making sure that you have your finances in check, right, on one end. But then the withdrawal is, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep. Oh, I'm probably putting bad things inside of my body as well. Oh, I'm also not practicing infection prevention and control practices, which again are a real thing. When you're not doing more, meaning you're doing more of withdrawals than what you are doing deposits, this is what does not like. Your body doesn't like. Your body's going to remember that, hey, oh, you have this relentless amount of stress or responsibility. Yet, you're in a negative. And if you're in a negative, then you're always going to be in that space of being unhealthy. So this comes down to balancing and understanding, and not one shoe fits all. But you have to balance.
Please take care of yourselves, everybody. We're living in the most stressful of times. We just buried young Wardea yesterday, the 6-year-old who was stabbed 26 times by his neighbor, by Mr. Zuba, who was stressed by listening to, his wife said, talk radio that's conservative and that is demonizing Palestinians. So how did he work out his frustration? Well, he killed a Palestinian child and tried to kill his mother. Unbelievable. Someone he had been kind to, who he had taken on as a grandson, up until a week before he killed him. Everybody, we have got to do right, not just go another way. We need to go the right way. So let's talk about this. We've got a lot of stuff to look at. First of all, we don't have a Speaker of the House. What is up with that? Let's talk about it on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse. No. This is when I'm on 7 days a week. It's too much. This is the Santita Jackson Show. Stay right there, everybody. Back in a minute. Dr. Knighton, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I am doing well, honey. You're just going to have to hear my little chug-a-lug because I got a lot going on this morning.
I get it.
My little chug-a-lug. And I miss my brother's going to be on CNN, so I would love to be watching that right now. But Yeah. I said, wait a minute.
Guess what? Look, if you watching him, then you're not spreading the good news and doing your mission.
No, I got you. I just, he's my baby brother,
I got you.
and I
But you know
just,
what's so crazy?
mm,
Both of y'all fighting a good fight.
well,
And what would he be wanting you to do?
oh,
Continue on to do exactly what you're doing and vice versa.
you are so right. Because when I spoke with him last night, he said, he said, let me tell you how you made me proud yesterday. I said, what happened? He said,
Uh-huh.
I think he was in the airport. He said this Pakistani man came up to me and that was significant. He introduced himself as such. He said, I listen to your sister every day. I love her. Jonathan said, I
Oh.
almost burst wide open. I was so proud. I said, oh, wow, thank you. He said, you don't have to thank me. I love your sister. I love her. I said, oh, wow. I said, that's why you do this, so you can bring a little light to some people.
Absolutely.
And that is what we're trying to do. Make things right. So, and now the UN chief is demanding a ceasefire. Thank God, because they can't go on this way. This is awful. This is just absolutely awful. And we still don't have a Speaker of the House. I'm like, are you serious right now?
Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's awful. But you know what? You reap the whirlwind. All of this mischief that we stirred up in so many other places, it's coming home to us now. And so here we are. Doesn't give me any joy because this is my home. This is where I live. I don't like this. So, okay, I got that. Okay, but how are you doing?
I'm okay. I mean, yeah, things are okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me know how things are going with your other situation. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
We have Attorney Connolly and Attorney Jones ready to go, and we have about a minute left in the break.
Okay, I'm going to send you Attorney C.K. Hoffler's information so you can call her at 7.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Got you. I did reach out, though. I know she's been pretty busy. So.
Well, she's been on the road, and I'm going to be with her. I will be with her Friday and part of Saturday, so we can get together with you then. Okay.
It's actually interesting. So, yeah, no, we'll be able to talk about it, but I think it's not necessarily okay, but we did end up out, and just to give the audience just a little bit of background, we were talking from last Tuesday about my line sister / fans that was murdered due to domestic violence.
Stand by, about to come back.
That was released with it being said that it was a justifiable homicide.
I want you to, if you can. Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. Yeah, you hear chug-a-lug in the background. We are talking, before we talk about what's happening in the Middle East, we got to talk about what's happening here. We still do not have the head of one of the 3 branches of government. We have the executive branch, that's the president, who is the head of that. You have the judiciary, that's the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court heads that branch of government. Legislative branch is not headed by the head of the Senate. No, because the head of the Senate technically is the Vice President of the United States. The head of the legislative branch of government is the Speaker of the House. We don't have a Speaker of the House. Why? Well, chaos. If Matt Gates had I guess if Kevin McCarthy had not cut this deal, so that it would just take one person to express the desire to vote him out, we wouldn't be here. But there's something deeper at play here. There's something deeper at play here, and we need to look at that. But in the meantime, Representative Jim Jordan, after Steve Scalise, the House Majority Leader, fell last week, he could not gain the support. Trump ally, Republican Jim Jordan, who has a very thin legislative record, well, he went forth and he failed in his first round of voting. What does that mean? Will he? There's going to be another vote today. What's going to happen there? Will he? Will he stay in it as long as Kevin McCarthy did? What does that mean? Will the House of Representatives vest the temporary speaker more powers so that they can begin to conduct legislative business? They cannot do anything. You can't vote on a bill. You can't bring a bill to the floor without a speaker, without the speaker, not a speaker, the speaker of the House. Nothing can happen. Israel needs money. Ukraine needs money. You need money in these cities. Our city, Chicago, is facing a $300 million shortfall because of this migrant crisis. In New York City, it's more than $1 billion. We need money. But they have the power of the purse. Can't do anything about that. So we've got attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition in Washington, D.C., to talk to us about it, and attorney Aaron Connolly, a brilliant political strategist and organizer. So talk to me. Aaron, what do you see? Because boy, this is a lot. And before you do, I want to remind people, look, today from 3 to 5 p.m., I want to see you at 2021 Swift Drive. That's right. We're having our labor panel. You know what? If you bumped into a glitch on heartlandsignal.com or WCPT, don't worry about it. Just get there. Joan Esposito and I will be hosting this labor panel. You're going to find out about the power of unions and what unions can do for you. Cisco, for example, well, you can get educated and become a master in the trades without it costing you anything. They'll pay you to apprentice, they'll pay you to go to school, and then you come out making 50, 60, 80, 90, $100,000+ a year within a couple of years. Of course, you have to learn and become great at it, but can you imagine? You don't have to imagine. There is work out here. And let us not be snobs about vocational education and blue collar work versus white collar work. It's work, and you need to go where you're led to, where your talents lead you. So please join us today from 3 to 5 at the beautiful Roofers Local 11 Union Hall in Oak Brook at 2021 Swift Drive. This event is brought to you by the Chicago Federation of Labor, Roofers and Waterproofers Local 11, Smart Locals 265, Megget Financial. If you need to get a financial advisor, you don't have to be wealthy. No, you can have a working class or middle class salary. That is what they do. And Cisco. And so I can't wait to see you all out there today. Aaron Connolly, what about the Speaker of the House? We don't have one. I mean, it's like if you stepped back and looked at the three heads of government, it would be like it should be a three-headed hydra. It should be three heads, but it's like a two-headed hydra. It's a little monster. Something's missing here.
Well, something's missing, and then our Supreme Court is going through ethics challenges. Charge of the House of Representatives are on their what now? This will be the third attempt to elect a speaker, and it will always end up in chaos because there is no real policy platform that they're pushing. Each faction of the Republican Party is pushing personal agendas that relate either back to Donald Trump or some other personal vendetta against another member of their own party. And we see the chaos yet again on display, holding America back. And what we saw yesterday was unity among Democrats for the most part, right? And sticking together, voting for Leader Jeffries and saying, hey, we're ready to govern. We've been doing this work. We have bills that we want heard, that are ready to go. What are you guys doing? And the fact that they weren't able to get votes for Jim Jordan, in my opinion, isn't a surprise when you look at Jim Jordan's history. His participation in the January 6th insurrection and the subsequent support for President Trump in the aftermath of that is just one of his many flaws as a legislator. And personally, I think he's unfit to lead the House of Representatives, certainly, but I would argue to go so far as to even serve in the House of Representatives. So I'm not surprised there weren't all Republicans begging to vote for a person like Jim Jordan. The problem is who's the alternative, right? And we saw an attempt last week, and Santita, as you pointed out early on, someone who identifies with, David Duke is not, again, a person who's necessarily fit to serve as Speaker of the House of the United States of America. So where do Republicans go from here? It'll be interesting to see this vote today. We're expecting a similar performance as yesterday, but you never know. The reality is the world is grieving on so many levels right now. We are on the verge of war. The president is overseas, and we need a House of Representatives that can back up America's interests and have really the functional authority to do anything. Right now, we are left without a way to move forward, and we need to be able to spend some money in order to do that. And the House has to get back to work. It's the Republicans that are holding this up. Do not listen to anyone that says otherwise. It is just patently untrue. So we will see what the circus has in store today, Santita.
Well, and the fact is, your congressmen are working. Their offices are open. They can't get any bills on the floor. When people talk about, congresspersons, and I'm not just saying this because I have a brother there, and I've had another brother there. And I worked for Congressman Gus Savage when I was in college. They work all the time. All the time. Their offices are never inert. That is inactive. But the problem is you don't have a speaker. You have so much chaos on the Republican side. They're the ones who put these rules in place that will allow one person, Darrell Jones, to say, I want him out. And that's what Matt Gaetz did. And now you have chaos. It is a mess. Now, mind you, I'm not going to say the things were right before. I think this is an opportunity for us to grow. There's an expression, Attorney Darrell Jones and Attorney Aaron Connolly, when the growing gets tough, the tough get growing. We got a lot to fix. Attorney Darrell Jones, what do you make of the fact that we don't have? Do you think Jim Jordan's going to be able to get through today?
Good morning, Santita. I don't think Jim Jordan's going to get through today. And, it's incredible because it's really interesting because, I think that Erin was right on the money when she said, he was a non-starter from the beginning. I think there should be a level of qualifications that exists for a Speaker of the House. I don't think that you should be the Speaker of the House and in 16 years, you've never passed a bill. You've never had a piece of legislation pass in 16 years. I would think that as a minimal qualification, you want someone that has the ability to get legislation passed, the ability to come up with the legislation that's going to help the American people. I think that just as a minimum. So, at the outset, I think there are questions about just his ability to serve in the capacity of Speaker of the House. Now, I think that beyond that, what's on display right now, unfortunately for the United States, is just the undoing of one of the parties of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And I say that because of this. I very, very few Republican policies would I support, But I do believe that our government works best when both parties are at least functional. And what the Republican Party has shown is that they're not functional. You tell me this, you knew as a kid coming up that before you quit your job, your parents would say, what, you better have another job lined up. Well, think about this. Matt Gaetz has gotten rid of the Speaker of the House, right, which is, the dominant part of our legislative body, and they didn't have a plan on who to replace him with. They had no idea what they're going to do. So now we're put in a position where our country is seen internationally as just this bumbleclad that they have no idea what they're doing, and they continue to show it. So if they take another vote today and Jim Jordan fails again today, that's just deepening that, that feeling that y'all don't know what you're doing. And in the midst of all of that, you have your president over in a war zone right now. So I look at all of this mess, and I'm like, they need to find someone to serve as Speaker of the House that can bring, what was the old saying, that to be the adult in the room, to try to bring all of it back to the center so that the Congress can operate. And, it's really frustrating to see it all going down the way that it is. I would love to be in one of the 200 legislative districts that voted for Jim Jordan, because, I think those are the seats that people are going to be running against those people, because the question is, how do you support a person like this? This is what I think is lining up right now. What we're seeing on display is a grab for power. That's what we saw from the previous speaker, and that's what we see with Jim Jordan. That's what we saw trying with Steve Scalise. They're trying to do this power grab, but they don't have the numbers to do it, and so now it begins to look embarrassing, and ultimately it's going to hurt our country because we don't have a functioning legislative body of government, Santita.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm not embarrassed. I think that this is our opportunity to work out that which has been broken for a long time. It's a mess, and now it's no longer a secret. I mean, Republicans continue to occupy the White House as president when they lose the popular vote. Something's off with that. And we keep lifting up these so-called leaders. We keep turning, little people into giants because we put them on stilts. You're still a little person. Sorry, with all due respect. And we keep putting giants in ditches, and then we call them little people. Something's off about that. Let me go to David. David, you have a whole lot you want to weigh in on, sweetie. What's on your mind today?
Oh, morning, Santita. Yeah,
Good
you've
morning.
been getting to it. The value of America, when you think about the U.S. dollar, is the currency of the world. That if you want to do a currency exchange of any, the lira or the pound, you have to base it on the U.S. dollar. And when these guys ruin the reputation of America, they ruin the reputation of the U.S. dollar. And what are the people of the world going to fall back on? Putin money? They're going to fall back on, Modi and India is trying to get untouchables back. The fake communists of China. Whose money is going to be the world's base? So that's. To me, there are three schemers. There's the old aristocrats before 1776 that were hating a republic. Then when the Civil War was over, the Klan were left behind. And then after World War II, the Nazis were brought into America. So those three have been joining together to bring down the republic. And when you start looking at just playing them against each other, there's no honor among thieves. Those Nazis will rip off a Klansman as quick as they will an aristocrat. And so we need to get our country back, and we need to get some function going, fresh water systems, schools, roads and bridges, engineering, all sorts of different things need to be fixed. And these guys are playing with the budget for it. So we need to get the realization of what is a conservative and what's a saboteur.
Well, and who is going to be the adult in the room and get our priorities together, David? Because our priorities are off. I don't care who hits the government. Our priorities are off. mean, it was you can't fight. Oh, you can't fight all these wars. Janet Yellen, as she continues to tell us about inflation, and I was talking to several friends yesterday, and one of my girlfriends said to me, "I am so angry." I said, "What happened?" She said, "Girl, I just left the store. I spent all this money and I barely bought anything. People are struggling out here." And yet she says, "Oh, yeah, we can afford to fund the Ukraine war and what's happening over in the Middle East." I was like, is she serious right now? I mean, Aaron,
You
I mean,
remember Howard
David?
Zinn?
Yes. Oh, of
Yeah.
course. No, no, no. Go,
Well,
David, you
he
answer
had
and then Aaron.
well, Howard Zinn was pushing local currencies. So if somebody wants to play games with the international currency, that's one thing. But if you got a local currency, you can get your back porch fixed, you can get your garden tended, and you can get all sorts of projects taken care of with a local currency. When these guys start messing with the international currency, you got to have a local currency to fall back on.
Well, you know what? I'll see, but most people, that is, you're taking people way across the rainbow when you start talking about that. I mean, folks are just look at and the thing is, if we really want a republic and not a monarchy, we're gonna have to get involved. I think we are the ones. You have to call your Congress and tell them, congresspersons, and tell them to work this out in the House of Representatives right now. But it's not just enough to put someone up there, Aaron and David and Daryl. You got to put the right person in. I don't know how you can have someone like Jim Jordan who's never
Right.
passed anything. It's like, what have you been doing while you've been there? What's he been doing? Aaron?
Well, he hasn't been governing. He hasn't been leading. He hasn't been a man of character. Let's say that. My experience of Jim Jordan is one of a rabble rouser who likes to ask ridiculous questions at hearings, who likes to generate more press for himself, who likes to align himself with folks like Donald Trump, who has no regard for the truth, for justice, for the Constitution, and is fully unqualified to be a Speaker of the House, certainly. So, I'm a little more used to the independent-minded mavericks of Republican Arizona, where I, worked with John McCain's staff to actually get some things done. We disagreed on a whole lot of things. I will say that. I don't want the emails about what John McCain did. I am very well educated in that. Okay, he was not perfect. He is not a person that I would
Girl, you don't
necessarily
have to
vote
sell.
for.
You
But
don't have
what
to
I
sell
will
that.
say,
And if people hear that,
hey,
that's ridiculous.
I get the
No,
emails.
I
You
get no
wouldn't believe
trust.
it.
Trust me,
And
I get it. I've been called a Trumper, and you know what? My thing is stop, everybody. You can engage in loving critique, in respectful critique. Like I do that with the Democratic Party all the time. I was just talking to someone about that. I said, "Look, you're not going to get me to do blue no matter who. I'm always going to reserve the right to critique and criticize my party." In fact, it was my father who registered more people to vote than anybody in the history of the republic. So I get it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say to you is when I think that you're going wrong, like LBJ said, hey, Dr. King challenged him on you cannot do Vietnam and the war on poverty. Choose or lose. Well, we lost.
Mhm.
And we have more impoverished people today, than we did then. In the richest nation on earth. And we're spending, and Janet Yellen, Aaron tells us, oh, we can afford to have these wars in Ukraine and even the Middle East. I'm like, are you crazy? Give me some of that money
Well, and
here.
yes, and that's what Americans are saying. If we can afford all this, then where's my health care? Right? We see that meme going around about the space hotel, and people are like, I just want health care. I don't have to go broke for, guys. Like, it's not that complicated. Can you help us out here? And now we're in a situation where, Americans are feeling the anxiety of this war as well. And I want to take a moment today to just reference that we are not centering people in this conflict. And we see the anguish on our television screens. We hear it on shows like yours. We are discussing it, at picking up our kids. Mothers are aching, especially in Illinois, with this story of this beautiful 6-year-old little boy who was murdered. The forces of hate are weighing upon an already burdened nation. We have to recognize that. And, the president today is in a war zone.
In
and
a
we don't
war
have
zone.
a functioning Speaker of the House.
Would you let that settle in on everybody for a moment? And now when he was flying over there, it became infinitely worse. He is less safe. Oh, I want him to come home. He was supposed to go over to Jordan. You have people who are angry as they can be over there. I want him to come home. Honestly. No one believes over there that this was not an airstrike. First of all, no one has the munitions power to kill hundreds of people in one strike. Only one army has the power to do that. So just stop it. It's put our president in harm's way. Stop. Come home and work this out.
And the rhetoric, there's so much stress on the people, and when people feel like there's no way out for them, and especially at a time when the government that would normally be taking action, let's say in a perfect world, we have a Democratic House led by Hakeem Jeffries, we would be taking actions to hopefully pursue a ceasefire and try to find some peace in this region and be the leader that we should be on this, right? To negotiate a return of the hostages, to, look at the acute issue at hand and try to stop open hostility. That has to be America's number one priority. And we see folks in our government standing up and saying, this is the next step. We have to remember that peace is possible, and we have to end these hostilities, get these people back to their families, and then move forward with the policy pieces. But there's no centering of people right now. The reality is the House of Representatives needs to have its teeth back to be able to move these things forward and support our president, support our world. Really, we are a leader, and we are left without a big tool in our toolbox right now.
Well, but you got to have the White House has to go another way, Aaron. You can't call peacemakers, who are supposed to be blessed, repugnant and disgraceful when they're calling for a ceasefire. Now they're out of order on that too. Just stop. But now you have the head of the UN who's saying we need a ceasefire. Stop. This is spiraling out of control. And we need peace. We need people who are going to advocate for peace, and the Republican, Democratic, and all of the parties, and people outside the parties who are sick of it all. Either you're with peace or you are with killing. That's it. I want to know, where do you stand today? Do you stand with a ceasefire? Things have gotten infinitely worse, and our president is over there right now trying to figure it out. Because when he was flying over there, that hospital was blown up. Up to 1,000 people, if not more, will die because of that airstrike. It's just a sin and a shame before God. This is ridiculous. When will this end? I'm tired of the shooting on the streets of Chicago and in the suburbs. I'm tired of people dying of opioid overdose. I'm sick of it all. I want us to have a culture of life. How about that? Come on, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278. And let's talk about what's happening in the Middle East. It is a lot. It's a war crime. You don't strike a hospital. Oh, you don't do it. Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show. Hope to see you tonight, this afternoon, 3 to 5, 2027 Swift Drive. All right, out there in Oakville. Can't wait to see you. Joan Esposito and I are waiting for you. Back in a minute. I think what the White House calling these people, saying that they're disgraceful and repugnant when you're calling for peace, calling for a ceasefire. That was the most ridiculous thing I'd heard in a long time.
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond to that part of it, to be honest with you.
No, they're just wrong. They're just wrong. You call them out. And then you move on. It does not mean that because before people reach out to me and say you're not supporting Biden. No. See, let me tell you something. I'm from the kind of house where my mother engaged in loving critique, and she does it today. My mother is going to call you out. That's my background. I don't have one of these mothers like, oh, come on, baby. No, 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 no. If we got into trouble, the first thing she wanted to know, the first thing our father wanted to know, the first thing they wanted to know, because they parented together, was what did you do? When I was read the Riot Act, Daryl and Aaron at my Harvard interview, guess what?
And
My
I want
parents
Santita too. This is CK.
Oh, CK, hold on. My parents first wanted to know, what did I say? What did I say to that interviewer? They wanted to make sure Aaron and CK and Daryl and Mark, when he comes on, they wanted to know first.
Oh, I'm on.
They wanted to know first, were you disrespectful? Because even though he was wrong and he had no right to attack our child, because I was not even 18 years of age, they wanted to know if you disrespected this man, even though he was out of order. I got a problem with you because I raised you better than that. So for all of you who come to me and say I can't criticize the Democrats, I am going to do that because I want the Democrats to get right. You should not call a ceasefire repugnant. You should not call it disgraceful. You're out of order. Now send me an email on that. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Hey, CK.
I'm good. Good morning.
I love the pivot and transition. Hey, Mark. Hey, CK. How you doing? Hey, Mark. How you doing?
You know how we do. I ain't got no problems doing that. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. You know, before someone tells me, well, you know, we have to get Trump in. You know what? I'm a Black person who's descendant of people who were enslaved. And guess what, too? Everybody in my background are the rejected ones. My father's Irish, he is Native American, and he's African. All the rejects of the world. That's who we are. Okay? So you can't frighten me with anybody. All right? I want things to get right. Period. I'm with you, Mark. Don't reconstruct some mess. Don't do that. This is an opportunity for us to get things right. Period. That's it. So you all keep talking because I'm looking for something else. Thank you. Hello. I'll keep talking. You know, I've had my rant for the day. I'm good. I guess that's my coffee. Well, it's true. You know, I mean, really. Because Aaron does get the email. So you waste all this time trying to justify the unjustifiable. Or just to say, well, no, it's not that I don't support. It's not that I'm supporting Trump, but he was right about this. You know what? Stop it, y'all. Stop. Don't. It's like using the CIA term conspiracy theorist.
And I think we should stop trying to justify ourselves. If people want to say that we're not supporting Biden or we're helping Trump, okay, fine, think that, but I must still do what I got to do.
That's it.
Think whatever you want to think. Think whatever you want to think.
So think what you and say whatever you want to say. Because what you're trying to do is really divert the conversation, and I resent that. I am from the civil rights movement. I am very clear on the saboteur. Enough of this.
By the way, am I live still with Santita?
Oh, sweetie, I didn't realize you were still there. How you doing, David? I'm gonna let you go, but you can make your comment, sweetie.
Well, yeah, just a couple of things. With out here in San Francisco, I work on energy issues, and so when you look at the energy policies about oil and fracking in Israel, they've got oil discovered underneath Gaza.
Would you say that one more time? Because I talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, there's oil underneath Gaza.
Okay.
There's a UN report that came out. I'm doing this from memory. It's the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and so this is they announced that there's oil underneath Gaza, there's fracking offshore of Gaza, and that the money that could be made could help out the Palestinians.
Absolutely.
And this was the United Nations Trade and Development policy paper or statement.
Because put a pin in that, because they did the same thing in Cuba. Cuba can join OPEC. That's how much oil was discovered. I think it was in 2006. That's why we're trying to normalize relationship. Oh, no, that's what happened. The report came out. I reported it when I was on my other radio show. That's why they want these people out of there.
Well, but it's just to make it simple.
Back in 30.
Just like the American Indians were slammed onto the worst land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Gaza was the worst land until they discovered oil underneath. Now they're trying to drive everybody off of Gaza so they can get to the oil.
Thank you.
That's what I figure. It's just another oil war.
And absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Now, you know what? I'm going to keep you on. You said that I have to let you go. My sweetie. Okay? Mm-hmm. Did you all know that? If there's gold up in them there. No, I wanted to know if the panel knew that's what.
Okay.
Did you, CK, did you know that?
Stand by.
That they found all of this, oil and gas?
Change the world, change the world.
I did hear that, but that's been something that I've been on for a while.
No, we haven't.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Stand by. Coming up.
It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about the Mideast, making that pivot as we are waiting for another vote to see if Jim Jordan is going to become the Speaker of the House. People are saying it's unlikely, but you don't know. I just know we don't have a Speaker of the House. So no business can be conducted. People need money. They can't get it. If you want to give aid to Ukraine, that's not going to happen. If you want to give aid to Israel, not going to happen. If you want to give aid to Gaza, not going to happen. Can't happen because the power of the purse rests with the U.S. House of Representatives. So let's talk about that, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773. Oh, we hear you, CK. WCPT. Everybody, the labor panel today is from 3 to 5. Joan Esposito will be out in Oak Brook at 2021 Swift Drive. 2021 Swift Drive at the beautiful Roofers Local Union Hall. From 3 to 5 p.m., we're going to find out everything you need to know about unions. Maybe you want to organize one at your job. Maybe you really need to understand what unions offer, right? Megan Financial, through your union, will show you how, will give you a credible path to a comfortable retirement. You don't have to be wealthy for you to have a financial advisor. If you've talked to the people from Cisco, you're going to find out that you can get an education in the trades, a top-notch education. You will not go into debt. They will pay you to go to school, and then you can come out of your job doubling that which you have gotten as a stipend, $25,000. You can make 50, 60, 80, 90, 100,000 plus a year within a couple of years of having been certified in the trades. So we want you to know what you have available to you. So, and go to heartlandsignal.com and get registered. But you know what? If there's a glitch, just come on out there. Come on out there at 2021 Swift Drive. And you've been invited by the Chicago Federation of Labor, Roofers and Waterproofers, Local 11, Smart Local 265, Megan Financial, and Cisco. Want to see you there today from 3 to 5 p.m. And let's make a pivot, everybody, to this, what's happening in the Middle East. We've got our president over there right now praying that he will be safe. We're going to have Dr. Francis Boyle, who's going to talk to us at the bottom of the hour about the airstrike of the hospital in Gaza City. It's a war crime, everybody. Up to 1,000 people, if not more, have been killed. So far, 500 to 800 people, according to Al Jazeera, have been determined dead. They can't really count all the dead because literally, as you approach the hospital, there are body parts everywhere. Yeah, it's gross, but that's war, and it's awful. And only one country has munitions that are that powerful. That's not a rocket that kills hundreds of people in one fell swoop. It's not right, everybody. It's not right. And we have to get right. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. David, are you still there?
Sure am.
Very quickly,
Yeah, I'm
sweetie.
trying to figure out how I can.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I was
just
trying to
very quickly, I
email
want you to
over.
tell us about this discovery that was made because this is your industry. But I want people to understand because this is something CK as we go into legal Q&A with CK and war crimes and what all that means. Many people do not know about the point that you just made during the break. Very quickly, David, what has been found over in Gaza?
All right, so this is it's a United Nations committee or conference. All right, so the website is UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And it's from the 28th of August of 2019, the unrealized potential of Palestinian oil and gas reserves. Oil and natural gas resources in the occupied Palestinian territory could generate hundreds of billions of dollars for development. And this is 2019, so it's 2019 billions. Geologists and resource economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory lies above sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the West Bank and the Mediterranean coast off the Gaza Strip, according to a recent UNCTAD study. New discoveries of natural gas in the Levant Basin are in the range of 122 trillion cubic feet, while recoverable oil is estimated at 1.7 billion barrels, according to the study. And so UNCTAD, and it's the 28th of August of 2019.
Absolutely.
Unrealized.
I want people to understand, because everybody keeps trying to make this a religious conflict. It is a political conflict. This is about land, and if you own land, you own the resources underneath the land. That's what this is about. So let us not be fooled.
The Holy Land, it's supposed to be God's land, right? So
all this is supposed to be God's land, but other people keep stealing it. And it needs to stop.
Right, but who gets the royalties?
It needs to
God's
stop.
land?
It needs to stop. It needs to stop. But I love you, David. I'm going to have to let you go so we can get on with this segment because I've got Dr. Francis. Boy, I love you, David, out there in San Francisco. CK, thank you, sweetie. CK, you have got Attorney Darrell Jones, Attorney Aaron Connolly, and of course, Attorney Mark Fancher on with us this morning. But CK, wow, you have this hospital that's been blown up. Al Jazeera is saying that they're expecting maybe the death count to rise to 1,000 people. It's hard. It's hard to figure it, to square it, because you have body parts all over the campus of the hospital. It's just awful. What is a war crime anyway?
Santita. Well, a war crime, let me just first start goes out to all of the victims of this war, and it's a war. And unfortunately, I believe that pretty soon, if we're not careful, we're going to escalate into a world war that would involve nuclear capability. But hopefully we can de-escalate because there aren't going to be no winners in this war. We are already losing. This country is losing. The world is losing. The precious lives of men, women, and children that have already been lost as a result of this war, and it's only going to get worse. This period of the discussion, there is not going to be a positive endgame if this war continues. To answer your question specifically, Santita, and I thought it was important for people to understand that's a perspective. No matter where you fall on the side, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, I can't imagine that anyone believes that war and this war is going to have a good result. I just can't believe it. But anyway, you asked, what is a war crime? Well, there is a court called the International Criminal Court, better known as the ICC. It's housed in The Hague in the Netherlands. And the International Criminal Court was a court that was set up basically to have international court that has jurisdiction over certain international crimes. including genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. And you ask, what is a war crime? A war crime is there are various conventions that or laws that have been set out internationally that govern what happens during a war. I mean, believe it or not, when we have wars in the world, there are certain parameters within which we're supposed to operate a war. A war crime is a violation of the laws of war that gives rise to individual criminal responsibility. Many leaders throughout the world have been prosecuted through the ICC, International Criminal Court, because of war crimes. There's things that you can't do to civilians during war. There's things you can't do to prisoners of war. You can take prisoner of war, but there's certain protocols you have to follow. There's certain things that you can and cannot do relating to the unnecessary destruction of property, wartime sexual violence, pillaging, and other acts of war. We saw this happen. We've seen it happen for a very, very long time throughout the world. So when you ask about a war crime, what is it? Mass killings, including genocide, ethnic cleansing, the conscription of children in the military, property, the seizing of property, unnecessarily destroying civilian property, and putting children, innocent victims, and women in front of a firing squad to further the end of war. There are many, many war crimes ostensibly that are being committed in this war in the Middle East right now. And it's prosecuted now. Let's just talk about the ICC. The United States is not a signatory to the ICC, interestingly enough. But there are many countries that are. But the United States, while participating in some fashion, is not a signatory, because if we were, perhaps there could have been arguments made that the United States and certain leaders of the United States would be brought up on that's a violation of the, certain or perpetuating war crimes. So putting that aside, Santita, I think the devastation that we are seeing, just the devastation itself, and what we understand, and again, I feel like I have to watch 4 or 5 different television stations, from the international television stations to the domestic ones, to figure out probably a scintilla of what's happening, because we are not given all the information. That's not unusual. There are propaganda machineries that are happening all over the world that are reporting on this, but certainly we can't simply rely on what we're seeing through the U.S. media, whether it's corporate media or otherwise. We have to look to other sources, the BBC, and other internationally recognized sources.
Well,
independent media, because
independent
they are able
media.
to report.
Because I have to tell you, those who are internationally recognized, I don't know where they're getting their information from. I mean, because it is very hard for us to find out that Gaza is oil rich and gas rich. I mean, Chevron is there. They have gas fields just off the coast there. And they don't connect the dots. They connect the dots on a lot of foolishness, but not on the real business of the money. And
and that's always been the case.
Yeah.
That's always been the case, Santita. I spent a lot of time in Angola before the Angolan government was officially recognized by the U.S. government, because it was perceived as a communist country. This was during the Cold War, and up until not too long ago. And as you know, Angola is oil rich, and even though we had U.S. companies, oil companies, firmly established in Angola, and those oil rigs were guarded by Cuban troops. How about that? So, there are all of these ironies of when we talk about global dynamics, whether there's war or whether there's an ideological war that happens, and sometimes there's a lot of hypocrisy. But I really don't want to focus on the intellectual aspects of it, because what's at issue for me are the lives and the destruction that is taking place. And the fact that we are on the verge, and please forgive me if I hope that I'm...
Oh, CK?
There are many countries, yes, there are many countries, and I apologize, I'm leaving the airport, just landed in Atlanta, so sometimes it might be a little sketchy, but many countries in the world have said, and some have not said, but feel this way, that if Israel invades and takes over and occupies the Gaza Strip, that they will intervene And if there is intervention and continued escalation,
Absolutely.
there's going to be escalation into a world war. I don't even think we need to take this lightly. And I heard Aaron's comments when I landed. I called right in earlier, about 20 minutes ago. I heard Aaron's comments and other people's comments about the impact of this to our kids in this country with the limited knowledge that we have, hearing about children being decapitated, seeing the ravages of war, hearing the stories. We're only hearing one side of the story. We're not hearing, when there's a passage for Americans to come home, that's for, I believe, Israeli Americans. Are Palestinian Americans going to be allowed to come home? Because we're all Americans. But we're only hearing one side of the story.
Well, CK,
but whatever side of the story we're hearing, Santita, there aren't going to be any winners in this war.
Well, I think that people have to always know that about war, but I only have about 7 minutes left in this segment, and we've got Dr. Francis Boyle joining us at the bottom of it. No need to apologize, because there's a lot to say. A lot of people feel a lot of ways about this, and you have a lot to say as a lawyer with international experience in this particular space. But let me go to Mark Fancher. Mark Fancher, what say you about this? This is a lot.
Well, the problem with international law historically has been that unlike in a domestic situation where you can establish courts and police and a punitive system for taking care of those who break laws and that kind of thing, in international law, the norms might be set, the rules might be established, but there isn't always an effective enforcement mechanism. A state can violate international law that concerns war crimes or anything else, and nobody takes them to task. The International Criminal Court was established for the purpose of actually taking people into custody when they engage in acts of genocide, aggression, or war crimes, and a couple of other specified offenses. The thing is, and Attorney Hoffler made reference to it, a country is only subject to the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction if they sign on to the Rome Statute, which is its founding document. The United States has removed its signature. They signed on initially, but they removed it. Israel has not signed on to it, and they're not subject to it. And, we've made reference to the bombing of the hospital as a war crime. Specifically, the Rome Statute specifies in Article 8, Paragraph 2B9, that it's intentionally directing attacks against buildings dedicated to religion, education, art, science, or charitable purpose, historic monuments, hospitals, and places where the sick and wounded are collected, provided they are not military objectives. So it clearly, on the face of the language of the statute, is a war crime, but Israel escapes jurisdiction because it is not signed on. And so there are many, and Professor Boyle may talk about it, Palestine did sign on. They have submitted to the jurisdiction of the court. And so there may be a route to prosecution that way. But I think the significant fact to me is that these countries that regularly engage in acts of war crime, in war crimes and genocide and other kinds of crimes that are subject to the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction, make sure that they can't be punished for it. And what kind of an example does that set if they hold themselves out to be leaders of the world? We're making it possible for us to commit the most horrific, the most outrageous, the most inhumane acts, and we will not be held responsible for them.
It's shameful. I only have about 4 minutes left in the segment, CK. Let me get 2 minutes from Aaron Connolly and 2 minutes from you, Attorney Darrell Jones, who's going to welcome Dr. Francis Boyle, who's a world-renowned expert in this particular space. First, you, Aaron, 2 minutes.
Well, I also want to note that yesterday, for folks who are part of our U.S. military, who agree with the policies of our country in that front or not, are going to be participating in this armed conflict as well, right? And we know disproportionately our soldiers on the front lines will be poorer. They will be more likely to be Black or brown or immigrants, and there will be troops sent in the name of our nation. And we got that news yesterday. So folks in military families are looking at this escalation through a different lens and are feeling apprehensive about what this means. As CK referenced, that we are in a perilous situation from a world war perspective, and we have to call on our representatives to look at ceasefire, to look at peace, to look at new solutions to this escalating conflict.
No question. And I think we're going to also have to ask our military service persons. I'm from a military family as well, and on my mother's side. And I have to tell you, we also have to ask those who serve to ask them deeper questions. That's what Muhammad Ali did. We have to ask them deeper questions about what it is that we're doing, because we cannot continue to put these people in harm's way. And they need to ask about that too. We have to do that. Attorney Darrell Jones.
Yeah, Santita, I look at where we are now in this conflict, and one of the things that Aaron Connolly said that just continues to resonate with me is that we've got to remember to center on people, that these are people being killed, both sides of people being killed. And when you look at what's happening just with the Gaza part of it, and, with the, I believe it's pronounced the Rafah border being closed so that they can't even escape. They can't get away from the bombings that are occurring. And then you look at the hospital and the killings of the hospital. It's upsetting. It becomes the question of how do we center on the people? What role will President Biden play? It's going to be an interesting thing because, he's just recently made the comment that he believes that the bombing in the hospital was done by the other team. So he's clearly, taken such a strong stance that it's going to be interesting to see if there's any way to be able to negotiate for any type of peace after you've taken that particular type of stand. I understand, from the last politician reading that book by Franklin Foer, that that Biden realizes that he's got to get close to Netanyahu to try to get him to back away from pieces of the plan so it'll be heard. But I just don't know that this strategy is going to work in this situation. And if it doesn't work, how many more people will die? And that's the question, Santita.
Not when Netanyahu is inclined to tell you to go straight to the devil. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway, as unpopular as he is at home. And it's our money.
Well, Santita,
CK,
I just want to add I just want to add perspective. This weekend, this week, Thursday, Friday, we have our Peachtree Conference in Atlanta, and we're celebrating your father, Reverend Jesse Jackson. We're celebrating also the onboarding of Reverend Freddie Haynes. The Reverend's voice in this conflict and the ability to broker peace, has always been so important. Because we need a brokered peace in this instance. No matter how bad things seem, there have always been faith leaders. Reverend Jesse Jackson has gone into these places and these spaces and made sure that his voice was heard and his brokered peace brought back hostages, U.S. hostages, when the U.S. government failed, when third-party interveners failed. Your dad, Santita, was the one who came and brought back Americans safely and brokered these peace deals and pushed people to a different space.
And you know what he did?
His voice now more than ever, and those like him.
You know how he did it? He did it because he was respectful of people. He was not contemptuous of them.
Absolutely.
You can't go in with your thumb on the scales. You're not down as broken. You can't say, that was the other team. What are you talking about? You can't do that. But you didn't want to be an honest broker. I don't know you can when you're funding one side and not the other. When you're not engaging in critique and say, open up. First of all, why do you need everybody out of there? Is it the oil? Is it the gas? Chevron is over there. Yeah. Did you know that? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. We're going to have one of the world's most renowned on legal Q&A with CK, one of the most renowned experts on this space and on war crimes. In fact, CK, he was Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr.'s law professor at U of I. Dr. Francis Boyle. Back in just a moment on the Santita Jackson Show. All right, keep talking, everybody. Keep talking.
And let's just think about this. I know you talked about it a bit earlier because I heard the tail end of it. We have no Speaker of the House. Now, let me just tell you, Jim Jordan is, in my impression, not the answer. Just under no circumstances, nowhere, no how, no when, no space, no place, no ever, no, never, never. But that's just my own personal view. But we have no Speaker of the House. And I know I put all these never, no, never to the never of the never, for the never, ever. But we have no Speaker of the House.
Yes.
We are, our president is in a war zone right now.
Right now.
The most dangerous place to be in the world right now, he's there. Kamala's here. If anything happened to our president or Kamala, we have no Speaker of the House. I don't know that we recognize the crisis within that we are confronting when we are in not one, but two wars. We got to call it like it is. We are in two wars.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. We have Dr. Boyle ready to go.
Age and funding. So we don't have a Speaker of the House. I'm just stating the obvious. And the front runner is no how, no way, no time, no space, no place, in my humble impression. And I'm only speaking on behalf of CK. I'm not speaking on behalf of Rainbow or any organization that I may be affiliated with. And so we are really, as citizens of this country, we are in a very compromised position globally because we are a superpower without a question. Our enemies are aligned in these two wars against us, of course. And we are approaching, at least in one of them, what I believe something that could evolve into a world war. Israel was created as a result of World War II. So we are approaching that space again with many countries having nuclear capability. So we have reason to feel some kind of way and to feel very uncomfortable. 9/11 was not so long ago.
Well,
not so long ago.
And it's being done with your money. That's what, see, Dr.
2
Boyle,
minutes.
how are you?
Well, Santita, thank you very much for having me on. My best to your listening audience up there in Chicago.
Oh, well, and in Minneapolis. And we have people from all around the country and all around the world who are listening. And I want to thank you for being with us and thank you for being such a wonderful professor to my brother, Jesse. He sends you all of his love. He has so much admiration for you. I reached out to him and let him know you were going to be on the show. You actually have driven up my brother actually has more respect for me today. Because
please give my best respect to your brother, my student, and also to your father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Oh, I will do that. And thank you. And of course, you're on with this is a segment we call legal. Well, it's not called. It is actually Legal Q&A with CK Hoffler. She is the former president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world. She's the chair of Rainbow Push. And she's also a legal analyst on Court TV, the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. We have attorney Daryl Jones, attorney Aaron Connolly, one of the top political organizers in the country, and really brilliant strategist, and attorney Mark Fancher, civil libertarian author, brilliant attorney out of Michigan, and was National Conference of Black Lawyers, but he's also with ACLU. That he's not here with them today. He's here because we asked him to be, and he's part of the family. And so we've got Dr. Francis Boyle, and I'm so glad that he is with us today. He's professor of international law at U of I, and he taught my brother and his then wife. They were about to get married then. Attorney Sandra Jackson, Sandra Stevens Jackson, and so I'm so glad that he is here with us today.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am greedy.
Hey everybody, Legal Q&A with CK on the Santita Jackson Show. We're handling things a little differently this morning because attorney CK Hoffler, she said, I didn't want to be away from the audience, and I'm so glad, but she's traveling today. And so we're catching her literally coming off of a plane and grabbing a phone so she could participate in the show. And for that, we're so grateful. But we've had attorney Mark Fancher, he's still with us, and attorney Daryl Jones and attorney Aaron Connolly. And we welcome this brilliant legal scholar, CK Hoffler. to the show. Indeed, he's a professor of international law at the U of I at Champaign-Urbana. And he has many books, one of which I finished reading not too long ago: Palestine, Palestinians, and International Law and World Politics, Human Rights, and International Law. And I wanted to dig into those books because I said, well, uh, we don't know a lot about that. We don't really talk about that in the United States. We're not signatories to the ICC, and we ought to be, but then we'd be arrested, I'm sure. And so, but he has experience in this area. He represented the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina, arguing their genocide case against Yugoslavia before the ICC. So he actually has experience in this space, but I wanted him to speak to specifically what happened with the bombing of this hospital. Al Jazeera says up to 1,000 people were killed. The president said, leaned over at his press conference this morning as he was just arriving in Israel. The other team did it, which was like, ugh, that was not, it just sounds a little biased. But that when you walk to the campus, all of the reporters say that there are body parts strewn everywhere. And only one country is capable of launching a missile, if you will, that powerful. This was not just a rocket that misfired. This was an air strike. But, you tell me, what do you see and what are we looking at? It just seems like this is spiraling out of control, Dr. Francis Boyle.
Well, you're right, Santita. You have to look at the entire pattern of Zionist aggression here in Gaza, and it all adds up to genocide in violation of the 1948 Genocide Convention against the Palestinians. And let me quote Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, defined as, quote, first, killing members of the group. Well, we saw that last night. That looked like a precision guided bomb to me. Second, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Right now, we have maybe 3,500 or more dead Palestinians. And finally, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. All food has been cut off, all water has been cut off, all medical supplies have been cut off, and they've been systematically bombed all up and down Gaza now for the past 10 days. So it's clear it's genocide. Indeed, the objective is to drive as many Palestinians as possible into the Sinai desert. So they're facing another Nakba, like in 1948, when the Palestinian population was driven out of Palestine by the Zionists into exile where they currently live now. In addition, of course, the hospital itself is absolutely protected by Article 18 of the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 that says, quote, civilian hospitals organized to give care to the wounded and sick, the infirm and maternity cases may in no circumstances be the object of attack, but shall at all times be respected and protected by the parties to the conflict, unquote. What we've seen here, Santita, is also violations of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, for which the Israelis and arguably the Bidenites can be prosecuted as aiders and abettors. The state of Palestine did accept our currently contracting parties to the Rome Statute for the International Criminal Court. These are Rome statutory crimes, war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity being inflicted upon the Palestinians. Right now, the ICC prosecutor has opened an investigation I can't say I'm terribly optimistic. The International Criminal Court hasn't done diddly squat to help the Palestinians since Operation Cast Lead, when I had advised President Abbas to accept the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court on behalf of Palestine, which he did in 2010. And the ICC prosecutor hasn't done anything for them. So there we are today, Santita. I think, given all this, what's going on, what we really need now immediately is a ceasefire. And of course, as you know, the Biden administration has adamantly refused to call for a ceasefire. Indeed, they have instructed U.S. diplomats around the world to not say anything about a ceasefire. Now, I know first thing this morning, finally, the UN Secretary General Guterres called for a ceasefire. Well, he should have called for a ceasefire 10 days ago, but better late than never. The Security Council is meeting later today. I would hope they would call for a ceasefire here. That's what we need. We need a ceasefire, and certainly not any invasion of Gaza by Netanyahu. I am sure if this happens, Hezbollah will come to their defense, and Hezbollah can inflict massive death and destruction on Israel. They have perhaps 100,000 high-powered rockets, not like these expanded fireworks that the Palestinians have been shooting into Israel. And then, of course, Iran could get involved. The Biden administration sent the Eisenhower and the Ford there off the coast of Lebanon, apparently to deter Hezbollah from coming to the defense of the Palestinians to facilitate Netanyahu's invasion. I do not believe Hezbollah is going to be deterred. As a matter of fact, my guess is right now, Hezbollah has very powerful Iranian anti-ship weapons that could be used against the Ford and the Eisenhower. So we're talking about 10,000 U.S. sailors and Marines there right in harm's way now as we speak. So it's a very volatile situation. We have to stop this conflict immediately.
And this is unsettling for Americans because we have at least 2,000 of our troops in that area. But CK, before you jump in, let me ask this question. Dr. Boyle, professor of international law, University of Illinois, brilliant thinker and author and legal scholar. What about the Biden administration? Where are they in all of this? You mentioned them in your comments.
Well, the cat is out of the bag, Santita, where Secretary of State Blinken went over there and appeared with Netanyahu and said, I'm here as a Jew. So, in other words, as far as the Arab and Muslim world is concerned, I don't know how African Americans see it. The Jews are running the United States of America and are working in cahoots with Israel against the Palestinians. And then today, Biden shows up. I just saw him on the BBC, and following Israeli lies and propaganda, blames the hospital strike on the victims here, the Palestinians. So it does appear to me, regretfully, we're up to our eyeballs working with the Zionists in Israel against the Palestinians and helping them inflict genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, and another Nakba against the Palestinians. They don't need, first of all, a humanitarian corridor or humanitarian aid. What they need immediately is a ceasefire, which Biden refuses, and all the Bidenites refuse to do. They're encouraging right now Israel to invade Gaza. And that will be a terrible tragedy for everyone living there, Muslims, Christians, and Jews.
Well, it seems that the CK, as you come in, that the corporate media are cheering on, and that particular front opening up, the ground invasion, even though Iran has said that's the red line. If you go into Gaza, we're coming in. Hezbollah, we're coming in. I see that as a disaster. I mean, this is not the Middle East that of 40 years ago. Exponentially, the numbers have changed. Dr. Boyle, there are many more people over there. I mean, you've had a birth explosion in Egypt, for example. I mean, there is a lot going on there, but it seems that we're not functioning that
That,
way. Oh, yes,
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, Santita. Indeed, President Al-Sisi has already publicly stated that we are not going to permit Israel to drive 2 million Palestinians into Egypt. And Jordan is destabilized too. We could see the collapse of the peace treaties that Israel has with both Egypt and Jordan if they continue the way they are going. Because if the Zionists succeed in driving 2 million Gazans into Egypt, the West Bank will be next, and they will drive the West Bank Palestinians into Jordan. And the Jordanians know that, the Egyptians know that, the Arab world knows that.
Because CK has a lot of experience in this international space, having helped to establish several African nations as they were coming out of colonialism. CK?
Well, Santita, I listen. First off, Professor, and thank you for all of the overview and giving us greater insight as to what's at stake and the ICC. I think that we are, I hate to say it, continue to say this, we are inching towards a world conflict. And again, there are no winners that will come out of this. It is already on our shores here in the U.S. And I think that as there are many of us, I come from a military family too. I have a blended family, so all three of my fathers and my late father-in-law are all served in the military in some capacity. One as a doctor, one in the Air Force, two of them in the infantry. So, we all are tied to this, to the military here. And one of my godchildren has been deployed. We don't know where she's being deployed. We suspect that she's headed to the Middle East. We suspect that. We won't know. And so all of this is affecting us here and now every single day, and it's getting worse. Escalation.
Every day.
We do have the ability. Of course, we don't have a Speaker of the House. So our U.S. Congress is not able to do business. And typically in a situation where we are engaged.
CK.
Large say, and what we do, don't do, how we do it, how much money allocated. We can't do business as usual in the legislative branch. So those three branches of government that we have, one is paralyzed.
Well, CK, hold on one second. Because because I'd love for Mark to comment on that. But first, Dr. Boyle, maybe that's not a bad thing, because we've been shoveling money into this conflict and it has only gotten worse, Dr. Boyle. I mean, I don't want us to not have a speaker.
I think CK hit the nail on the head here that this very well could develop in this whole, if Biden lets and encourages Netanyahu to invade Gaza, which right now Biden and the Bidenites and Blinken are doing, this entire area of the world could blow up, all the way from the Mediterranean down to the Arabian Sea. We have large numbers of American military forces over there. The Ford and the Eisenhower are sitting ducks. You've got basically 5,000 sailors and Marines there on each of them, with U.S. military bases all over the Middle East, military personnel, diplomats, consular officials, et cetera. The whole region could descend into warfare. Right. And we also have here in the United States, as you know, many African Americans are Muslims. They could become targets of attack too. You saw this poor little Palestinian boy there in the suburbs of Chicago was murdered, and his mother was attacked. So there would be ramifications here in the United States as well.
So, Mark Fancher, why don't you react to what you've been hearing? Because you have such a profound international perspective and historical perspective on where America is in all of this. Mark Fancher.
Well, I think that it's not so much where America is, it's where people of goodwill are in all of this, because we really have no place to turn but ourselves. I know the International Criminal Court broke my heart because for so long, it had been a situation where people who engaged in war crimes, crimes against humanity, et cetera, were able to do so with impunity. And when the court was initially established, I thought, well, this is an international body. Perhaps they won't, follow the party line as it relates to the imperialists, and they will act independently and actually stop some of these crimes that are being committed by the imperialist countries. But they just fell right lockstep in with their program. Initially, the ICC prosecuted only African heads of state and African officials, and they were pretty much beholden to the Western powers and did pretty much whatever they wanted to do. So we can't rely on them. We can't rely on the U.S. government, and I am glad that they are unable to function and to send more money into Israel. But we do have ourselves, and I think it's very easy in situations like this to become just overwhelmed, by the enormity of the threat and the problem. But we have capacity to do more than we think that we can do. We look at what happened to that little boy outside of Chicago, and that was the result of someone who was totally confused, somebody who was made crazy by the craziness of the times. Whatever the reason, it did not demonstrate the best of what human beings can be. We can be the best of what human beings can be. We have that ability. I saw a video just yesterday where two little black girls, 7 or 8 years old, had a lemonade stand. Biker guys, big guys with beards and tattoos and the whole thing stopped and they bought out their stock. Just a simple act of kindness. We can engage in acts of kindness. We can respect each other. We can demonstrate humanity and prevent the kind of a threat that may loom for people who are our Muslim brothers and sisters living among us here. Internationally, we have to be willing to break with the code of silence. There are people who are intimidated and afraid. They are afraid to speak out against Zionism and Zionist aggression and all the crimes that have been committed by the Israeli government. We have the capacity and the ability to do that. And the more that we speak about it, the more that we say about it, the more that we make the contradictions known, the less support that the politicians have for the positions that they take. And fewer of them will be willing to risk their own personal political careers if they know that what they're saying is inconsistent with the popular will. So we have to be brave enough to speak out. Because politicians are spineless. They put their wet fingers in the air to see which way the wind is blowing. And yes, Zionism is powerful, but it can't overcome the might of the masses of the people. And we have the ability to overcome even these overwhelming circumstances. We just have to keep that in mind and not become demoralized.
And Dr. Boyle, I'm going to give the final word to you these last few minutes that we have here. And the fact is, Reverend Jackson, down through the years, has always, and he's taken a real hit for it, because at a time when you dare not mention Palestinians, he did that. He said, but having said that, Palestinian justice and Israeli security are locked into each other. You're not going to have one without the other. And it's like no one has wanted to listen to that, but that is true. But where are we now? Because it seems that we are moving into a world conflict where there will be no winners. If you drop a nuclear bomb, if you do that, everybody on earth is going to feel it, Dr. Boyle, at some point. This is, and it's spiraling quickly, Dr. Boyle. This is like,
well, Santita, I wanted to comment on the Reverend Jackson. Back in 1991, I was the legal advisor to the Palestinian delegation to the Middle East peace negotiations in Washington, D.C. at the Grand Hotel. And we were having the heck beaten out of us, both over in occupied Palestine and there in Washington, D.C. It was so bad that press conference that my client and friend Hanan Ashwari was shedding tears. And Reverend Jackson saw all this on the television and of his own accord came over to the Grand Hotel looking for a Palestinian to talk to. I was sitting there having a cup of cappuccino after a hard day of work. I went up to Reverend Jackson. I shook his hand. I introduced myself. And the Reverend Jackson said, "What can I do to help?" Now imagine that. No one asked this man to come and help us. Of his own accord, he came over there. He asked how he could help. I gave him a briefing on the status of the negotiations where the Zionists refused to negotiate in good faith with the Palestinians. And then I offered to take him up as to what he could do. I said, well, I can't speak for the Palestinians. Let me arrange a meeting for you with the chairman of the Palestinian delegation to the Middle East peace negotiations, Dr. Haider Abdel Shafi. Would you be willing to meet with him? He said, yes. I said, fine, I will call up to his hotel room right now. I called up Dr. Abdel Shafi. I told him that the Reverend Jackson, Jesse Jackson, was here, one of the leaders of the African-American community and of the peace movement, and would the doctor please speak with the Reverend? He said he would. I brought the Reverend Jackson up to Dr. Abdel Shafi's suite. I introduced them, and then I left. It was not for me to be there for their conversation. Well, that's astounding, is it not, that the Palestinians, these oppressed people, and not just Palestinians, but others all over the world, here in the United States, that the Reverend reached out to help them as far ago as 1991.
Absolutely. I mean, and they knew because, he brought Palestinians into the conversation during the presidential campaigns, as he brought South Africans into the conversation. Israeli security, Palestinian justice. When you were not allowed to mention the name of a Palestinian, we all matter, everybody. Palestinian and Israeli tears should matter to all of us. And we need justice for everybody. The people who are taking the real hit are the civilian Israelis and Palestinians on the ground. We need a ceasefire now. Let me give a special shout out to my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, who's one of the sponsors of this House resolution calling for a ceasefire. So proud of that young man. I don't know what to do. And Delia Ramirez, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, and Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, and Jamal Bowman. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are you, Dr. Francis Boyle. Sending you all much love. See you today at 2021 Swift Drive at our union panel. You don't want to miss it. I love you, everybody. God bless. Dr. Boyle, would you like to say anything else to my audience who are on Facebook and YouTube and every place else? Did he leave already? You might have CK. Is everybody
still here? I'm still here.
Okay. Well,
I've got to run though. I've got a 9 o'clock.
Okay.
But that was very. We need to keep talking.
Oh
this
man,
is tragic. Beyond words.
Well, you know what? It's where humanity is right now, right? And we've got a decision to make. You got to say no to imperialism, no to colonialism. Say yes to everybody breathing and being free. I'm so glad that David brought up the fact that you have these huge oil and gas reserves off the coast of Gaza. That's what this is, a political fight. That's what this is. By taking all these folks' stuff. And it's not right. And we're willing to, and it's our money. That's why I want Americans to understand we are the ones who are facilitating this. Dr. Boyle, are
Yeah,
you there?
Santita,
Oh,
I
I'm
was
sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, look, I think that we also just have to maintain our perspective and remember that God is more powerful than Israel, and we just can't forget to pray.
Pray, and you know what? And work. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
You got to call and get the and make the ceasefire real. Many people throw up their hands and say, "Oh, it won't happen." No, it won't happen because you won't allow it to happen because you won't work for it. We can have peace. The Lord's Prayer is so simple, but Mark, it's so powerful. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, but we have to change our thinking, Mark.
That's right.
I mean, that's if we just change it, this world could be a very different place for everybody. But we're the ones who have to make the change. What did Michael Jackson say? Make that change. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him, you, me, you, to change your ways. No message could be any clearer. If you want to make a change, you got to start with you. If you want an aristocracy, then take your hands off. Then take your hands off. Let somebody else drive this car. But if you want a republic, let alone if you want to move toward a democracy, you must get involved. And everybody's got to be responsible. Aaron, are you still there? Or Daryl, let me say this. I'm from a military family. And while I pray for the members of the military, Mark and Daryl and CK, let me tell you something. You need to look at Muhammad Ali and his example. You can't just blindly fight in wars. We've got to stop doing that. Matthew Ho has been on this show and he's talked about the moral injury. So many of our soldiers come back morally injured, not to mention the fact that they're not government, but they come back injured because they, as Elizabeth Ward Howe said, they must unlearn all of the lessons of charity that their mamas taught them. That was part of the proclamation of Mother's Day for Peace. She said, we're for ending all wars forever because I'm not willing to help my child unlearn every good thing I taught him to be. You have to stop it. Study war no more. Beat your swords into plowshares. You must do that. Blessed are the peacemakers, not the warmongers. The only pathway to the middle class, the surest way for our people is for them to pick up a gun. Are we going to be blessed for that? And of course, America needs good defense. I'm not saying that you don't need that. No, but you should not create offense. And we do it every day. It's not right. Tell the truth about what happened to 1,000 people died at a hospital. Their body parts are all over the campus. That is just ungodly. And it ought not be all right for you. It's wrong. And the White House should not be calling people who call for a ceasefire. They didn't call for peace yet. They said, just stop the shooting. It's not disgraceful. It's not repugnant. What are you on? Who are you? And you ought to be tired of it because these people work for you and around the world, they speak for you. Enough. My grandmama said before she died, there's one way, it's the right way. That's it. She kept saying that a couple of years before she died. She said, there's one way, there's the right way. That's it. The way is straight and narrow. It's one way. One way. Let's get it right. I don't want to be better. I want to be right. Does anyone else have anything else they want to say before we go? Okay.
Santita, I think that you've said it all. I mean, it's right there. It's a question of our humanity within ourselves, and what are we willing to do, and are we willing to sit on the sideline and watch happen? Will we get involved? Will we push our elected officials to get involved? Will we ask for the right thing and demand that the right thing be done? Yeah, I just cannot believe that President Biden going to Israel, talking about the hospital being done by the other team, and then sitting in at the Israel War Cabinet meeting will put him in a position that he can negotiate peace. I don't
You
see that.
can't
I
do it.
just don't.
Wait a minute. And then while you're in the air, King Abdullah said, this conversation we were going to have, this summit we were going to have over in my palace, that's off. All this money you keep giving to these people, well, guess what? There's an airstrike that killed hundreds of people. We don't even know how many. Al Jazeera reports it's up to 1,000 people. You're not going to make that right. You're not going to make that right. And let me tell you something, Mark, are you still there, Mark? And Daryl?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
There is a song by the Davis sisters, made famous by the Davis sisters. Other people have sung it. My father wants me to learn it. I'm going to do that. I'm too close to heaven. I can't turn around. I have more days behind me than I have ahead. And I'm not being fatalistic. We're all going to get out of here. But I tell you, when I see the Savior's face, I want God to say, you know what? You done good, my child. I don't want to line up with the evil forces of this world. Jesus overcame the world. All this evil down here, killing people, this ain't right, y'all. This is not God's way. No. I'm not with that. I'm not with it. I'm not with it. You're not going to make it right. Gaza is mostly their youth. They're the kids. More than half of them are 18 and under, Daryl. These are kids that are being killed. What? 1.1 million people, you need to move. Yeah, so y'all can get the gas. Come on. You're just wrong. And don't think God will be mocked, and don't think God is asleep. Don't think God is not waiting, and that God, in some time we know not, God's going to make this all right. I just want to be on God's side. I don't want God on my side. I'm too limited and too foolish and too human. I want to be on God's side. How about that? So call somebody today and tell them that you want a ceasefire. And that if you don't engage in the ceasefire, there will be penalties. Because it's our money. They're doing it in your name. And you ought not allow it. You want to do it, then you pay for it. You pay for it. And if you want to participate in this, then you go sign up and join somebody's army and do it. I'm not with it. Now we got 2,000 American troops just sitting there. Oh no, no, y'all, it's not right. But maybe we have to get here in order for us to understand this, Daryl. So, like I said, if you so into this, then you go fight that war. I'm not with it. And you need to be a person of principle like Muhammad Ali, who put it all on the line. And we tried to destroy him. And there were others who followed his example. And they said, I'm not going to fight an unjust war. I'm not going to do it. And we only said thank you to Muhammad Ali, like you're doing with my father right now, when they are in a wheelchair and they can't really articulate. It's a shame. But it is what it is, because both Muhammad Ali, who was my father's beloved friend and brother, and Reverend stayed in the ring just a little longer because no one else would step up and fight. So when I bring in Dr. Boylan, I didn't know what he was going to say about my father. My father saw it on TV and said, hey, we got to do something. I got to do something. I got to do something. This ain't right. When Yasser Arafat came to my parents' home, our home in Washington, Daryl, he did something he never does, because he always had a taste tester, because everybody was trying to kill him. Indeed, that is what Castro told Hugo Chavez. He said, these folks trying to kill you, man. So don't let, you need a taste tester, and you need to be real careful. When my father was running for president, Daryl, he had a taste tester, because where my father was going, he was like, my folks ain't gonna hurt me. But in certain places, they would have someone eat the food first. Okay, I've lived with that. I get it. He walked over to the table and he got lemonade and he drank from the glass. He said, I never do this, but I trust this man and this woman this much. They've tried to be honest brokers. And then my parents took the hit for it. And then my whole family took the hit for it, but it's okay. It's all right. I just want to be right. Did Dr. King really lose? No, Dr. King is more alive and more relevant than ever. J. Edgar Hoover lost because we found out what a sick, vile, ungodly man he was. But Dr. King won, Medgar Evers won, Malcolm X won. These people won. Harriet Tubman won. Ida B. Wells won. Dolores Huerta won. And she's still with us. Cesar Chavez won. Let us, Marcus Garvey, you're right, won. We can keep on going. Now you need to join these people in the fight so we can all win. Don't just leave it to one person who you celebrate when they're dead or on their way out of here. And tears in your eyes when you see Muhammad Ali shaking, tears in your eyes when you see Reverend in the wheelchair. Oh, get out. Please, spare me. Get up and do something. And do the right thing. How about that? These jokers got around the track and did their thing. Now you do yours. Do your part. The world's about to blow up. Stop it. You have the power. You have the power. You have the power to make the kingdom of heaven real on earth today. You have the power. Make it happen. Stop leaving it to someone else. Don't be spiritually lazy. Get on up and do it. Stop leaving it to the preacher to be sinless. He's not sinless. She's not sinless. And neither are you. You clean up your own stuff. What did Little Richard say when they talked about his nasty music, Daryl? He said, my music is as nasty as you are. How about that? Clean up your own self. And let's go. Let's not just be human. Let's be humane. Let's do it. I love you, everybody. Let's go. Boom. How about that? Robert, Flora, Angela. I meant it. Now I'll add more to it before I take anything back. Let's come on. Let's do this. Boom. And I will see you at our October 28th party at Rainbow Push. How about that forced transition? Get in your costumes, everybody. Costumes required. Donations desired. We'll have a little sneaky snacks, but just come on, even if you don't have any money. And a lot of folks don't. Just come on, let's have some fun. But you got to wear a costume. And don't put on a mask and call it a costume. Come on, get creative. Get dressed as your mama. Your mama can be your hero too, and your daddy. How about that? All right, I love you. And I'll see you October 28th from 2 to 7 at 930 East 50th Street. But today, I hope to see you at the Union Panel. From 3 to 5, Joan Esposito and I will be there at 2021 Swift Drive in Oak Brook, Illinois. I love y'all. Bye-bye. Daryl, I love you. I'm glad you were with us today.